Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your host, Josh Abrams, and on today's show, we're going to talk about the abysmal week that was this week of Philly sports. We're going to talk about the Eagles and their devastating loss to Carolina, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Flyers and their inconsistent play. All that and much more after this intro.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
And welcome back from the introduction, and as usual, I have an amazing panel with me today to discuss the Eagles. Tyler Small, Sam Brown, and Dave Roberts join me today, and guys, this probably tops the Tennessee loss, don't you guys think?
Just by 3 points, but there's no excuses to be made. You can't defend this at all. There's nothing that could have been done. It's both offensively and defensively. There's no excuse for it.
And at least with the Tennessee game for a while, it was at least some back and forth. But no, you lead 17-0 going into the fourth quarter and allow 21 or so comeback points. That's just unacceptable.
We're the type of team that this should never happen.
At home.
At
too.
home, we just won the Super Bowl. We know what we can do, and then we let 21 points up in the fourth quarter. That should, as this team, that should never happen. It needs to change.
Absolutely.
Now.
And you know, looking at if we're recapping the game, guys, it was all Eagles for the first, there's 60 minutes in a football game, let's say. It was all Eagles for 48 minutes, for the first.
Even more, honestly.
Maybe even more. It was the Alshon Jeffrey show. It was the Zach Ertz show. Ertz had another amazing game, helping his historic pace for a tight end in Eagles history. But it just wasn't enough. I mean, we can't, there's so many problems with this team right now. And what I think a lot of people took away from this weekend was that the offense has just got to score points, man. We cannot keep on struggling to put up close to 20 points and expect to win football games in what is becoming now a passing league. And you look at the graphic here, we cannot put up 58 total rushing yards. That is probably the biggest thing for me. What about you guys?
I would definitely agree. I mean, you said it yourself. You could see it in the final drive of the game. They had 2 bailout plays, if you think about it, an interception that could have been upheld, and a pass interference call for 40-plus yards, both that got them to within scoring range easily, and they just couldn't get it done. They have no running game. They have no one to hand the ball to, and it's killing Carson Wentz in this throwing offense because they don't have a run game established.
You said it's a passing league now, and we know this. But if it's the fourth quarter and we're up 17-0, and we know we can get at least a first down, we have to run the ball on in that situation. We have to get the first downs and just let the clock run and just let it go down. We were literally playing against the clock, and then as soon as the Panthers scored that first touchdown, we were playing against the Panthers again. So in the fourth quarter, if we're up by that much, we need to run the ball and just let that clock run out.
And I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. And in the situation that they were in, given that it was fourth down and they were very close, 4th and 1, that last drive of the game, they were very close to the end zone. Carson Wentz needs to make better decisions in that situation, given that he had an open running back he could have thrown to, but instead he decides to throw into double coverage, which ultimately cost him the game.
Yeah, that was one of the more surprising decisions, and I think given what we just went through Sunday, we still need that big play. We still need that clutch big play ability from Carson Wentz. So looking at I guess if we were going to take some positives away from it, we did get a nice solid game from Michael Bennett, and with the developing news that we found out about yesterday, I believe it was. We're going to need that guy to step it up because we're not going to see Derek Barnett for the rest of the season.
Yes, that's a big loss. So because I'm a big Derek Barnett fan, I really was like, once we drafted him, I was really excited. I was like, this, and it wasn't like when they said his name in Philly, I was like, all right, this is the guy that he's gonna get us a championship in a couple years. I didn't know it was gonna be the first year he was here, but this loss really hurts me because Like he was the guy I really thought he was going to take over with Fletcher Cox. They were going to be the two dominant guys on the D-line. So I'm very upset.
And just to take a positive away from it, that is a huge loss. But just in the game itself, the first 3 quarters were the best in the defense has looked all season.
Yep.
They held Cam Newton, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, to 68 yards in the first 3 quarters, and then gave him 201 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth. It's disgusting. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sam.
It's unfortunate for him personally too, because now his development, his progress is hindered by at least a season now, and when they get that kind of talent back, whatever impact that it'll have when he comes back, they're missing out on. And just the defensive impact is something that they really need in this moment right now, and they're missing out on a big piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know injuries are just a part of the game. There's nothing you can do, but we gotta figure out how we're gonna overcome this kind of adversity, because it's pretty much an encore of what we saw last year, right? You know, a bunch of key players go down. The injuries are different. The players that we're seeing go down are different, Dave.
I think the difference is from this year and last year is last year we had the next man up mindset, and this year we won a championship and no one has that mindset anymore. Like last year we were really hungry. We were like, all right, we're like overtime team, like, so not overtime, but like we won a lot of games. We can do this, like, so we need to have that next man up mentality this year even more now.
And so, you know, going into the trade deadline, what was it last week, 2 weeks ago? We got the news that Howie Roseman restructured Fletcher Cox's contract, and that opened up, I think, a couple more $1 million in cap space. I think we were at about the 10 million mark. What are we doing, guys? We haven't made a move. And there is a plethora, like there is a list, a very long list of players that are available or that are, you know, up to trade. You know, we hear about Patrick Peterson, we hear about Jordan Howard, the possible idea of Deshaun Jackson coming back. And so let's talk about that, because I think every Eagles fan understands that we need somebody. We need to bring in somebody.
We need to be buyers at this point. We need to go out and make these big moves, because you see some of the teams right now that are already becoming sellers. The Giants, the Raiders are pretty much giving away their team. So I don't even care what position it is. It could be a high-end trade where we fill that $10 million in cap space with one player on the offensive side or a couple of key defensive players. Anybody.
Yeah. Also, like Tyler mentioned, the Giants and the Raiders and their fire sales. The Eagles already missed out on 2 big names, Amari Cooper and Eli Apples, and the time's ticking down for them. Now, a name on the waiver wire trade list that stood out to me, per se, was Patrick Peterson, and this is a secondary that really needs some extra help right now, so I think he'll fit in great just here.
Dave, how are you feeling about these potential free agents we could pick up?
I like all the names except for all the former Eagles. So
Okay.
I know they've been looking at LaShawn McCoy for a bit. I know they're looking at Deshaun Jackson. I know that we had re-signed Jordan Matthews. I'm the type of guy that does not want any of the former Eagles. Like, if we're gonna get someone, we can get someone like Carl Joseph, Patrick Peterson.
What is it that fuels that for you?
It's kind of like moving backwards. Like we came so far to get to the Super Bowl, and then now we're moving back to the point where we're going back to like 2015 Eagles, 2014 Eagles. We don't really need. I don't think we need those players again.
Do you really think that they were a part of the problem that wasn't making them a Super Bowl team?
I don't think they were the problem. They weren't the problem. I think it's the fact that, like, if we bring them back, it's kind of like, all right, these guys didn't get a Super Bowl when they had a chance that they're here, so let's just do it now.
Yeah.
Like, they could help us in the long run. I'm not saying they can't. I'm
Well,
just
I
saying
don't know
I'd
about-
rather just
So-
move on from the whole situation. in
So
general.
if they were to come here, it'd be almost like they were piggybacking on a team that's already winning, and they already had a chance to win. But I mean, some of these players went out on their own terms, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, and you know, looking at the list we have, I can't really. I think it's time for us to rule out Shady, because the Bills are asking for too much. He's starting to exit his prime, and I think he just got hurt recently. So I don't think Shady's a viable option right now. But you know, you look at it doesn't matter what side of the ball you want that you want to like improve, right? Patrick Peterson would improve this defense so well because he's a press cornerback. He's old. And he did it all in Arizona. Not only was he a Pro Bowler on defense, but he was also a Pro Bowl special teams guy. So this guy does it all. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, I haven't really seen much of Carl Joseph, but I think he could help us out in our secondary. But especially with how poor our rushing game was. I mean, what about the running backs?
They really need to bring in someone to help out at that position, with Ajayi being out for the season and Clement not having the amazing season that he had last year. He's not really picking it up there. I don't think that Wendell Smallwood is a long-term fill for that position. So bringing in David Johnson, I mean, it's a medium-sized risk, but I see a reward that's greater.
I think I'm going to agree with you on that, Sam, just simply because, you know, Arizona is definitely within the bottom tier of teams in the league, and I don't know if he wants to be a part of their rebuild. That's all going to be hopefully developing as the weekend comes along. But let's get into this weekend, guys. We got an early morning on Sunday. The Eagles and Jags in London. This was a potential Super Bowl matchup last year. Real quick, let's look at the scouting report. Big and bigger Calais Campbell stands in front of us. That man is 6'8", probably 320-plus pounds, and he is just a monster on that D-line for Jacksonville. And then you look at the new addition that Jacksonville got, Carlos Hyde. So let's talk about those players and any other impact players for the Jags that you guys are looking out for.
Well, going back to Campbell, he really does highlight that great defense, and it's surprising how many rushing yards they've given up. So this obviously doesn't help us since we don't have a rushing game, but hopefully it could spark some life for the rest of the season into Clement or Smallwood going down the season. But Hyde should be a good addition. We'll just need to stop him how we have stopped pretty much every running back this season on our defensive end.
I think I'm going to be worried about the Jaguars defense regardless. They were a top defense last year. They're still pretty consistent this year. Of course, Jalen Ramsey is shutting down. He's going to shut down our top receiver regardless what happens. Because, I mean, he hasn't said anything about our receivers, so therefore I'm already worried about what's going to happen.
Right.
So it's just the defense as a whole that I think we might have struggles with, but, you know, we never know because London air might change everything. You never know.
And the offense is generated from the quarterback, so this is not going to be an easy task, but Blake Bortles not – he's not good. There's no better way to put it.
No, he's not.
And I'm about to get into that because we're going to talk about our picks for the weekend. I'm going to start off with mine. I have the Eagles winning 17-14, and because we can't seem to win for ourselves, my MVP this week is Blake Bortles because of what Sam just said, how horrible Blake Bortles is. I just think it's going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be an offensive struggle for both teams. I don't see either teams moving the ball well, so I'm going to go with someone on the other team that's pretty bad, and that would be Blake Bortles. Tyler, go ahead.
And I go straight off of you with Malcolm Jenkins as my MVP because I think Blake Bortles or Cody Kessler, if he comes in, we have no idea. The safeties or quarterbacks are going to have big days. So it could be any one of them on the defensive end, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be an ugly game. And
we're feeling optimistic this week. So, Sam, go ahead.
So I probably went the most radical score, just given that my point differential between the teams is only 8 points.
Okay.
Just like Tyler's. But, this will be more like the Indianapolis game than any other game that the Eagles have played this season, given that it'll just be an offensive struggle, given how good we just talked about Jacksonville's defense.
Right. Dave, for time's sake, you have some explaining to do, so go ahead.
2017 Jags. The Eagles just have to prove that they can beat somebody. That's just me. And
so
my MVP.
I think it's kind of like what I said, picking against them to be proven wrong.
Yeah, right? I need them to prove that. And my MVP, British Airways, because they're going to get a chance to see a Super Bowl winning team on their flight.
You're about as funny as Jack. All right, we're going to go to commercial. Stay tuned. We're going to come back and talk some Flyers. Tell me you didn't watch the Phillies game last night.
You know, unfortunately I did, and it was just so heartbreaking to see the first 8 batters strike out.
Claude Giroux hasn't done anything for this organization.
I'm confused. You're doing an internship in sort of marketing and production, right?
I really can't believe that Ben Simmons won't be dropping threes on the court this year.
Hey, Tanya, I know you're really busy, but could you tell me who the Sixers play on October 28th?
Doctor, in order for the Eagles to win this week, they're going to need 250 passing yards from Carson Wentz. We're going to need 100 yards rushing. I don't care who it is. We're going to need a lot of good production from our tight end and wide receivers. And I'm going to need 5 interceptions from Malcolm Jenkins. Yeah, Mom, look, I know the money situation isn't good right now, but I promise you Travis Konechny's going to have a breakout year.
Hey, I had to climb to the top of Mount Everest to find Nick Pavetta's ERA.
Sports Talk Philadelphia. We talk nothing but sports all the time.